I'm joined by James Henderson, the Pantry Network Coordinator at Church Action on Poverty, and we're talking about food pantries today, James, because your local pantry has just clocked up its 1 millionth visit, and coinciding with that milestone, I understand there's some new research out showing not just the impact that food pantries have on keeping people out of acute crisis when it comes to food poverty, but also the impact it's having on things like loneliness and isolation. Before we talk all about that, though, could you just share from your perspective, working with Church Action on Poverty, what is the current scale of food poverty and the cost of living crisis?
Yes, unfortunately, food inflation has been growing month on month, and so we are finding that more and more people are really struggling to make ends meet. So a pantry is part of the ecosystem of communities supporting each other and helping each other to get through this crisis by giving people dignity, giving people choice, and giving people hope.
And I understand the collective term for these sorts of interventions are community food clubs. Can you tell us a bit more about how they actually work and what they do?
Yes. So we're working with community food clubs across the country, and the idea is that people pay a small fee each time they shop. Most of the people apply to be members, so you don't need a referral or anything like that. And it just means it's a great way for people to come together. They can choose their food, so there's fresh fruit and vegetables, there's fridges and freezers, so it looks a bit like your corner shop. And often the pantries and other organisations will have wraparound support. So if you need to chat to your local housing association or citizens advice, or maybe you have some financial problems, there's people there you can talk to. There's also opportunities to volunteer as well, so people can build up their skills, they can meet new friends, they can have a cup of tea and a biscuit, and so it really builds community and builds cohesion across communities. So our pantries reflect all the different communities across the UK, so it's a great way to meet people and have a chat over a biscuit before you do your shopping.
And is really the vision behind this to keep people out of the acute crisis of food poverty that food banks were set up originally to be a temporary stopgap measure for?
That's right, Dave. I think it works really well. It's a really complementary model to the existing food bank network. Food banks are great at supporting people in that crisis, but what happens if that crisis is ongoing? And what food banks are great at doing is stabilising people, helping them to get sorted, and then the pantry is a way of moving on through the food bank to a model where people can make their money go further, really. So part of the research that we've done, we've been working with the co-op, and that they've been able to say that our average basket is worth £27. So people maybe pay a £5 membership fee, but they're getting £27 worth of food. So that's helping those people on low incomes to make their money go further. It's giving them choices about, do they want to use that extra money on their heating, go towards a school uniform, or maybe save up for a treat, or with Christmas coming, save up for a present.
And that pricing there might sound almost like perpetual motion has been discovered. How does it work? How can you have a cheaper fee for that basket of goods?
It is getting more and more difficult, but we work with lots of food surplus charities, particularly people like FareShare and His Church, where we're able to get food in bulk with that. And we also have that collective buying, so it works a little bit like an old-fashioned co-op, and all the members' money goes into that pot, and that means that we can bulk buy into the pantries. But with the cost of food, that is really affecting all of our pantries and affordable food clubs across the nation. So it is a bit of a juggling game.
James, now you've had your 1 millionth visit to pantries in your network. What do the stats say? Is the system working?
It's certainly helping people through the cost of living crisis. We've actually been going for 12 years. So we were set up when the bedroom tax first came in, and that was really supporting people. So it is a way of supporting people, but we are really calling on the government to also step up and provide that support for people. We have a campaign at the minute around the two-child benefit cap, and we're really hoping in the budget next week that we will see some action on that. Church leaders across the country have been signing that petition. We've been working with the Joint Public Issues team on that, and so we really want to see some traction on that. And there's other things that the government can do around the food system to help charities and other groups work in a more coordinated way.
And what sort of people do you find using your pantry? Is it primarily people who are unemployed, out of work? Is it people who are in work as well?
Yes, Dave. It's a real mixture, to be honest. But the stats would tell us that more and more people in work are now in poverty as well. So lots of our members are working. Some of them doing 2 or 3 jobs, but it just helps them make that money go further and eat more healthily as well. So particularly the fresh fruit and veg. I've got 4 kids, so normally if I try and give them veggies, that they can turn their nose up at that. And if you're on a very limited budget, you can't risk buying that fruit and veg. But most of our pantries try and give that away for free. And so it means that members can broaden their diets. They often learn from each other, swap recipes. And many pantries also have cooking courses. So we can develop people's skills and share their talents and abilities by sharing those recipes and how to do stuff.
And does all that have an impact on people's mental well-being as well?
It really does, Dave. Yeah, I think that many of our members tell us that, the pantry is actually the highlight of their week. To go and visit, it's a really fun atmosphere. The coordinators and the volunteers really get to know people. There's lots of hugs going on. There's lots of laughter. And it's a real way of people just being able to offload a little bit, and our staff and volunteers really get to know people, and so they become friends, and they're really able to share kind of life's ups and downs, because life is hard for so many of us now, and it's really good just to have that friendly face, somebody who knows you and cares for you, and where you can share together around that. So our members definitely say it does improve their well-being, and which is really good to hear.
James, just finally, is it just an issue in certain neighbourhoods and communities, or do churches in all sorts of communities need to be aware of poverty in their midst?
I think it's more and more everywhere now. I think we're certainly seeing more and more people getting drawn in with the cost of living crisis. So I think it's something everywhere. The Bible is really clear that we need to be looking after our widows and our orphans and people in poverty. God's heart is for those in need, and we've got our refugee and asylum seekers as well. And God sees the person. We are all made in the image of God. And we as churches need to be out there, practically loving our neighbour, and food insecurity is one way that we can do that. But there's many other things as well. There's loneliness and isolation, and so we love to empower churches to be able to get out there and practically be Jesus' hands and feet in their communities.
James Henderson, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Dave.